Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conexxus 365. This week, we're going to be going through the API Interactive Overview. I'm your host, Emily Ford. I'm a Standards Coordinator at Conexxus. A few pieces of housekeeping to go through before I hand things over to all the good stuff today. First of all, this webinar is being recorded and will be made available on Conexxus365.org. Please go ahead and submit any questions as they're coming up to you in the GoToWebinar platform directly. There's no reason to wait on that. Also keep in mind that some of our webinars can be used for PCI continuing education credits, so please contact us for qualifying live events. I'd like to take a moment to give a big shout out and thank you to our 2021 Diamond sponsors. We really appreciate the extra support this year on everything we're doing on behalf of the industry, so thank you. And speaking of that work, Conexxus is a nonprofit technology member-driven organization. And what I mean there is that members really do the heavy lifting for us. We provide a neutral forum where retailers and vendors can network and come together to create standards that are beneficial to our industry. We also educate through white papers and events like this one, and we advocate on a technical level at other organizations to help steer the conversation around standards and policies. You're here so you know we're Conexxus 365, a weekly education subscription series. We offer free content events like this one fairly regularly, but we also offer even more through our subscription platform for $9.95 a month. So please consider subscribing. And included in that is the event next week on how Edge and IoT can unleash innovation in the food service industry, and that's sponsored by Intel. Please reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you on LinkedIn or any of these platforms. And without any further ado, I'd like to introduce to you our speakers for today.
Thanks, Emily. Hi, I'm Donna Perkins, and I'm currently Standards Manager for Conexxus. If you haven't met me, I've been in the industry for about 23 years. 22 of that I spent at a 23-store chain retailer in East Tennessee. And for the past year, I've been with Conexxus as Standards Manager. I'm very happy to be here and excited to talk to David Ezell, who is our Director of New Initiatives. David?
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us here. As Donna said, I'm Director of New Initiatives at Conexxus, which encompasses all of the new things we're trying to do at Conexxus. The primary one being a conversion over to API-based standards. And we believe there are a lot of advantages to the API format, and we're going to go into all of that right now. Next slide, Donna. So there is an important piece of housekeeping on this particular slide, which we may opt to put into chat here, which is this is the actual URL for the interactive overview that we're going to go through today. So before I actually start with this slide, this is, many of you will recognize this. You've seen it many times probably. We call it the brain. And the brain is actually showing how APIs fit in with our C-store model. It is a way of getting from what we have, thought of as our standard XML-based interfaces into the more, I like to call them well-defined API standards. And it also shows some of the benefits of what those APIs will bring. So the diagram here shows our forecourt interfaces all the way up to our corporate office in the way that we have pretty much defined them already. We have payment interfaces, we have fuel pump interfaces, which is what the car stands for out there, and we have the POS back office interface, which is one of the main enabling interoperability interfaces that we have at Conexxus. And then, of course, the back office can talk to the corporate system. Next, Donna. So we want to try to build this into our corporate enterprise. And the central nervous system and memory, this is why we call it the brain, it's going to be the first sort of cache of data that we're going to address next. Structured legacy data and exchange APIs. Well, we have a lot of XML APIs. We are in the process of moving those over into JSON and also making APIs out of the JSON data exchange. But the purpose of those APIs is pretty much the same as it is now. So we have loyalty, mobile. We have a series of APIs for reporting. We have a series of APIs for setting prices and that sort of thing. We'll get down into the details in a minute. But these are, at the end of the day, these are all legacy data structured, but to be able to interoperate with this brave new system that we're talking about here. Next, Donna. So new innovation is a key reason to use these APIs as opposed to the older data structures that we have. And for example, you could support a delivery service, and we have even been talking about supporting payment and innovation. I'm not going to talk about payment and innovation today, where there isn't a specific plan for it, but we know it's one of the most beneficial things we could do. Next. So in addition to new innovation APIs, we have new partners that we could bring into into our ecosystem. So there are associates where we could trade data with our competitors. It's possible. People do this sort of thing. Our suppliers, we will probably, some of those might be software suppliers, but they could also be other kinds of suppliers. And customers, our consumers, they're maybe the most important target group for these data exchanges. Next one. The new structured data, the big one here is IoT. And IoT gives us a lot of new channels for interfacing our devices. Some of it may replace some of the device interfaces we have today. But also these other kinds of data feeds, a weather feed that might actually sit alongside your journal so that you know what the weather was like and how your store was behaving with your consumers during those events. That makes it possible to do forecasting and all kinds of things. Next. And then finally, once you have all of that information, you can trade this data off into some extremely advanced machinery. Machine learning allows for the detection of patterns without having to bother the retailer to set up a bunch of tables. And one thing we've been looking at is making sure that store data is available to a variety of consumers of that data so that people can be directed to a merchant store. And it's really a lot of work for a merchant to try to set that up, but trying to figure out what's available and what should be promoted is actually a fairly easy task for an AI system, if indeed you have a common data dictionary like we do. So let's go to the next one, Donna. So this is the first slide of the interactive overview, and it is showing all of these things sort of collapse down to the store. And there are a lot of interesting things on this slide. And Donna, I'm wondering if you might want to help us choose our direction here.
I say we start on forecourt. That's kind of where our consumers start out. So let's look at forecourt. A couple of options.
So we have two options here. One is fuel control and inventory management, and the other one is forecourt sales. And the big orange arrow, I think, means we're going to forecourt sales, right?
We are indeed. Very good, David. We're going into sales. I think I could talk about inventory all day long, but not everyone feels that way. So let's look at sales first. Okay, this is a nice screen. I see a person in a blue car who's looks like they're paying for fuel on their mobile device or something.
Yes, that's exactly right. The little gas nozzle up there, it kind of gives you a clue that that's what that is. I will ask everyone to suspend disbelief for a second and ignore the person in the orange apron carrying stuff. That person is not going to the blue car. They're going somewhere else. And so you can go to the next slide. So the way the interactive overview works is eventually it will show you a selected set of the kinds of APIs that are available to help solve that problem. And there, for all of the spaces on the map of the store, or for any retail location, there are always multiple device interfaces or APIs that can help solve a problem. In the case of the blue car, the primary target is mobile payments. Now, mobile payments is an existing API, but it wasn't an API before, not in the strict sense. It was an interface, XML interface. Our newest versions are coming out, they're JSON based, and they're actually APIs. And so they should be a lot more strict in how they allow people to use it, and which will shorten the lead time on development and other things. We also have the forecourt device controller. This is tried and true device that runs at the store that front ends the dispensers and a lot of other things like price polls and tank level gauges. But it's sort of a one-stop shop for controlling forecourt devices. The dispenser device control is a relatively new interface that is being installed as an API only, and it provides the ability to control either one dispenser or multiple dispensers from any given point. And this kind of control is really the new way people are doing this sort of thing. So you'll notice the boxes to the right, I checked structured legacy data. Yep, we got that. We're moving XML to JSON, but it's also going to support new innovation, especially in this dispenser device control. For instance, you can have a POS system, which is on a different slide, running on a gas pump. And that system may talk directly to its own dispenser. It may not go through an FDC. It may go directly to that dispenser, which is much faster and also doesn't rely on the power being up in the store to do it. So I've got these checked boxes over here on the right to remind you of the brain slide and which one of the areas that we believe these APIs are touching in the large architecture of what we're putting together. Next, Donna.
Okay, that was very interesting. All right. Oh, I like this slide. This is a person who's ordering a hamburger at the fuel dispenser. That looks interesting.
Yeah, it is at the dispenser, and it's not something we've actually supported in our APIs before. And there are several APIs that work together to make this kind of thing possible. Next. So we have the electronic payment server, which has given us the ability to take payment for any number of things. But I think the more important one here is business data exchange and the food service support, which is extending our given price book so that you can define things as menu items or having say a bill of materials or an optional set of accoutrements or things that you might, or condiments, I call them accoutrements, condiments that you might put on a hamburger. Some of these are for money and some of them are free. And so BDXA, which is Business Data Exchange APIs, this is one of the targets for BDXA. Again, the checkboxes to the right show that these are mainly structured legacy data, and that even includes Business Data Exchange because it's stepping up on what price book sorts of things were already there, but it's also going to support a tremendous amount of new innovation. And next.
Okay, so that sounds like a good time saver for the consumer. And here's more time savings as we see a person in the orange car who is buying merchandise on what appears to be a digital device. And it could be for curbside pickup or for at the island pickup.
Yeah, I think this is where the person in the orange apron is going. I think they're, this order has been filled and they're headed out there with it. They could actually be going to the guy who is standing at the forecourt payment terminal. And I just want to take a moment to shout out the forecourt payment terminal, because that API also plays into this picture, where ordering that hamburger is really possible because you can actually have a POS that takes payment running on the terminal instead of just, payment. So next. This is sort of an innovative or an out there one, but we're already working on it, Cloud POS Calculator. The Cloud POS Calculator makes it possible to sell items just like you would at your POS inside. You can support all kinds of things like tax on tax calculation, mix match combo. It also supports alternative devices. For instance, you probably don't want to program all of that mix match combo stuff into your gas pump. You also probably don't want to program all of that in detail into your bring your own device, like a customer handheld device coming in. These are high dollar development efforts that the Cloud POS Calculator keeps us out of. So again, there is a lot of legacy data that's being leveraged in this interface. It allows for a tremendous amount of new innovation, new devices, new ways of using those devices. And it also is introducing some new structured data into the system, some new kinds of events that come from things and come from the devices and journal events and those sorts of things. Next.
All right. Thanks, David. Well, since we're outside the store, let's go ahead and talk about another outside device and talk about car wash.
Yeah, car wash, it's an eternal favorite of the forecourt. And I want everybody to think a minute, I think we've heard the really bad news from Gray Taylor that we may be selling 60% of the fuel we sell now in 10 years. But I'll guarantee you one thing, people are going to still be washing their cars. So car wash, don't underrate it. It could be a game saver in a lot of places. So next. So the first thing for that person sitting in the blue car, we can do this with our mobile payments interface, and it allows for selling fuel or car washes through your mobile phone. And we do that today. And again, the touch points in the overall architecture are structured legacy data. We're trading that, and also new innovation around ways to buy and sell services. Next.
Okay, great. That's very helpful. Okay, and now we see a car that's already in the wash who's purchased their car washed at the device. Main car wash controller.
Yeah, they're in there, and they used like this pole mounted thing. So our car wash interface allows you to generate codes. That code could have been given to the car inside the store, and they could have entered it through a keypad on this device. But some of these devices could use the forecourt payment terminal to actually run the entire sale, taking the credit card at the end and selling the car wash at the point of service. So the APIs make all of these kind of configurations possible. And that's what we think is really important about dividing them up this way. Oh, I'm sorry, I talked right over my slide. So it's, sorry. So it shows you what this device management interface does, and the car wash is pretty newly approved, and it supports all of these functions on behalf of the in-store system. It is, in essence, a structured legacy data entry, but it also is an important building block component. Next.
Okay, great. And now we see the way I always purchase my car wash, which is at the dispenser while purchasing my fuel. So that's still going to work, right?
Yes. And so I'm not familiar with the way all of these mobile payments apps work, but it would be paid for in the cloud. And and I'm actually talking about the mobile device first. And it, you don't have to use your credit card again. You would just get a code and you go enter it. The forecourt device controller can actually handle the car wash interface too. For instance, if you want to see your pump control and your car wash control in one place, it can all be handled through the FDC. And as an alternative to a separate car wash controller, forecourt device controller is maybe the granddaddy legacy device controller, both for IFSF and Conexxus. But we have put old wine into new wineskins here. The new wineskins being the API wrapper, and which will have the same kind of booster effect on the structured legacy data as for the standard car wash device. Next.
Okay, so now since we're still outside this store, let's look at price sign. What can you tell me about price sign, David?
Well, they're big and colorful. How about that? So,
they are.
So there is a price sign interface that's under consideration, and it is a separate interface, courtesy of IFSF, but it can also be accessed through the FTC. And in each case, these will be JSON APIs that allow you to turn on and off prices or to change prices. And the advantage of the FDC is that there are certain timing rules for changing of gas prices and displaying on the price sign. And I believe these can be handled through either device. Actually, now that I said it, I'm sure that you can. But these APIs are much more complicated than you might at first think they are, because they have to make sure that if you raise prices, all the prices on the pumps are changed before you show the higher price. And if you reduce the price, actually, I got it backwards, right? If you reduce the price, you can't change the high price on the sign until every single pump has changed. And the opposite is true if you raise it.
Okay, great. So now we can go inside this store and see some new and interesting API work. And we'll follow our consumer path and look at shopping first.
Well, it is a store, right? So we should be shopping first, right?
Yes, that's what we want our consumers to do.
Yeah.
Okay, this looks like a lot of information. Let's follow our consumer focus. What is this thermometer over here? Are we checking temperatures on food or on coolers?
Yeah, this is actually a deceivingly simple introduction to IoT, because IoT, Internet of Things, and the way that our IoT committee is approaching this problem, it could actually apply to almost all of the devices that are in the store. IoT can control devices, it can read the properties of devices, check on the software versions in devices, and it can also return events from devices. If somebody lifts a pump handle, IoT gives a very clear way of sending an event that something happened there. I could probably start listing examples of IoT and take easily the next two Conexxus 365 sessions just by giving you examples. I'm not going to do that. But I do want to mention that in a lot of ways, IoT is going to feed our structured legacy data in terms of site asset, which you'll see later. It also is going to support a lot of new innovation in how we control devices at the store. It's going to introduce a ton of new structured data. I can't tell you the percentage of expected new data in data lakes and other big data constructs that comes from IoT, but it's a very large percentage. And finally, new analytic data is going to come from these devices, stuff that would totally drown you today, but once you can give it off to an AI bot that can understand it, IoT is really where it's at when it comes to the next thing. Next.
I agree, David. I think there's a lot of opportunity in IoT to save a ton of time and money for store personnel and for organization to make use of great data. So as we keep looking inside this store, what can you tell me about this clipboard? What is that?
Well, the thing to keep your eye on here is the little man in the row below. He's got a counting device, and so he's counting the store. Move that ahead. And this is our introduction into business data exchange inventory. Conexxus has not had an inventory definition or standard yet, but we are keenly aware that knowing what's available, especially in point of interface devices that do not use the product directly, such as ordering online, it's absolutely key to know what the inventory is. So there are several ways to manage inventory listed here. One is initializing it to something, reconciling it. That guy out there with his little machine was probably doing a reconciliation. We can also update when orders come in, and we will relieve inventory in the future in near real time using the APIs we have available through POS activity reporting. So the structured legacy data is certainly supported here. New innovation, new partners, all kinds of things on that front will be covered. Next.
Well, that is exciting. All right, so now I see a price tag. What can we say about pricing?
Yeah, so you can go to the next slide. So we've, while we've had price book for a long time in Conexxus, we haven't really had a great way to define prices such that it minimizes work for the merchant and also makes it possible not to just set a price for a location, but to set a price for a location maybe that's related to a specific device or region of the store. There are all kinds of ways to divide this up, and I'll mention that it's not just prices; it's also blue laws, it's also taxes, and BDXA multi-site advanced product price covers all of those things. It's going to be obviously we're covering legacy data, but it allows for new innovation and new structured data. Next.
My cat's very interested in APIs.
No, your cat, it's Coupon Kitty.
It's Coupon Kitty, that's right. Actually, it's Coop Dog, but you know, who's counting? All right, so I do love coupons, and this looks like a coupon here.
Yeah, so you can go right on ahead. And digital coupons in our new API spec are based on GS1 8112 coupons. That's an important thing to remember. We actually did a great Conexxus, I didn't do it, so I can say it's great. Conexxus 365 session on digital offers. I recommend anybody who didn't see it, go back and watch it. It was really, really first rate. So we have the ability for our CPGs to actually issue coupons now and then manage the use of those coupons through the POS systems at the store. We are not defining the migration of those coupons through either loyalty systems or other third-party management systems. Those are still on the drawing board, but I'm sure we will get there. So this interface is really pretty much all new. New partners, new innovation, and new structured data. I think Gray Taylor has said at least once that these coupons could represent $5 billion of spendable marketing for our retailers, meaning it's somebody else paying you to do your promotions, and that's pretty compelling. Next.
Yes, I agree. The digital coupons offer a lot of opportunity for retailers and also reduce fraud in that space, which is very important to retailers. All right, so now what about stockroom? What can we learn about stockroom? Here's another little clipboard, which must be inventory.
It is, and if you remember, we went through a lot about inventory, but we're looking at linking our current business data exchange, direct store delivery capability into this inventory system. So this is the difference between the previous one and this one. This one is more focused on structured legacy data, but it also provides new partner data for people to begin to use direct store delivery. We hope it will make it more in reach for more and more people. Next.
Okay, and this looks like a nice little digital device up here. Is this going to be some more opportunity for digital inventory?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we already talked about inventory, so I won't go through it again, but it is one of the most exciting additions we have to the business data exchange portfolio.
Okay, great, David. I think we're coming in on the home stretch. So let's look at multi-site now and see what APIs can impact us there.
So this one is maybe one of the most important slides we're going to show that has the most far-reaching effects. If you look at the checkboxes below, you'll see they're all checked, because the ability to report activity, which has in the past always been our POS reports, or what we call our movement reports, and also our journal, POS journal. Those are still both supported, and they are both still key. And so POS activity reporting uses the legacy data, but it uses it in new ways. And most importantly, it makes it available to a wide variety of merchant-approved consumers who may want to use that data either to plan promotions. They could have AI systems for that. Some sort of real-time logic to figure out what to show on a Siri search. If you asked your iPhone, all of these things are, if you stop and think about it, the opportunities are endless, and the ability to create work for store managers is endless. None of this stuff will get done if we have to do it the way we've always done it. We've got to be able to get the computer to do these things for us. So having POS activity reporting is one of the key ways we decouple that so that it can be available for a wide variety of purposes. And the product price part of this, which is the BDXA side, is equally important. These are like two sides of the same coin, making it possible to serve all the new devices, all of the new, we may even have new merchants entering the business. Over the next 10 years, as our product mix changes, I think we all have to accept that. And if you are a merchant, it gives you the opportunity to compete directly with those people, because you could be a new merchant too. We're trying to make all of these things level the technical playing field, because that's really our job. Next.
Oh, and looks finally we have remote access. So what APIs are going to impact us in remote access?
So this one's an interesting one. Because we have site asset data, many of you are used to that. And we've also got this IFSF protocol out here, which we're working on integrating into the existing site asset. But site asset works really well over the cloud, but it pretty much reports data in a document form to somebody that pulls it apart. Where site asset data gets really exciting is when it gets married with IoT. So at any point over 5 minutes, depending on the events and changes in the devices connected to your network, the document that site asset data sends up could change. I confined it to structured legacy data because it is kind of the definition of that. But by the same token, there's going to be a lot of brand new stuff under the hood for site asset as we move forward.
We did have a question, David, on when the timing of when the different APIs will be available. I know some of them are released and some are not.
Yeah, and as everybody, I think, kind of embarrassingly saw, I posted that question myself because I thought you probably all wanted to know. It's also a hint that you should post your questions. That'll give us something. But I think this is a fair question. In the very high level, I think the big groups are the POS activity reporting, the business data exchange, and also all of our device interfaces. And I would include mobile and loyalty as kind of hybrids in there. Our device interfaces are moving along pretty quickly, and they should be available in the next, probably in Q2, certainly for wide discussion and approval. The POS activity reporting should also, it is implicated in several APIs that we're doing, and also in the POS back office system API refresh. This has been under discussion with the POS back office committee. I think we're ready to move forward. Some other committees also have a stake in that part of the definitions, and I think they'll be ready to move forward. So for PARA, I'm going to make a wild guess and say it will be the end of Q2, probably Q3, but it may be sooner. So that actually puts a lot of front load on Q2, which is really good to hear. BDX is we're adding inventory. We're sort of working through the food service dark corners. Please join these committees and help us move forward. And also but then the product/price book work for BDX. It is a sort of a reslicing of the traditional POSBO price book, same field names, but different groupings. And we're actively working on that. But this is a pretty heavy lift. So all of you guys get to the committee and help us understand what the actual user stories are that you want to solve in all of those places. I'm going to make a guess on BDX that it will be Q4. So I'm saying devices Q2, which comes up, PARA Q2, and BDX Q4. Does that sound okay, Donna?
Yeah, I think that is very reasonable and a logical kind of progression for the work. So that's encouraging. I had a question for you, David. And you kind of mentioned this, but I just want to clarify for anyone on the call that this work is not necessarily changing the data elements that we've been using for a long time in our XML work, and so there's that's going to keep us compatible with things that we've already been doing. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. We're trying hard. Well, in all of the years I've been at W3C, we used to have an expression which was terminological discussions never terminate. So like once you start arguing about, well, is this a price, or is it a sell price, or what is it? You can literally burn a decade talking about those things, and we did. PCATs did that. So we're trying hard not to reinvent any of that nomenclature. We're trying to take a lot of that hard-earned definition work and putting it into the API data dictionary. The API data dictionary is where that terminology actually can be reused between our various APIs and helps assure that all of these, which sound like pie in the sky, they're actually not. All of these ideas about analysis done by machines will really help lift that off the ground if all of this data is congruent.
Yeah, I think that's a big benefit to the API work, is that we're hopefully starting a little further along the path than we did with XML.
Yeah.
In addition, what some people on the call may not be very familiar with open retailing or with IFSF, who is a partner organization of ours in this API work. Can you mention briefly the open retailing work?
Yeah. We didn't differentiate between those two sets. And I think as time goes by, there will be less and less difference. The device interfaces themselves, for instance, the dispenser interface is a global standard. It came to us from IFSF. We are offering our new, I'll call it simplified car wash interface for approval by IFSF. So it has some standing to become a global interface. FTC has traditionally been an interface sort of between IFSF and Conexxus, and we have joint a joint membership on that committee. We also, and very importantly, have a joint committee for loyalty. The Great Awakening in Europe is loyalty programs at C-stores. I wish John were here so I could.
Yeah.
Actually, no, they've had loyalty, but it's not been the same as ours, right? So we're sort of on a path now to create a global standard there. And I think almost anything we're doing is now, because of our work with IFSF, a candidate for a global standard, even not the ones that I didn't mention. Mm-hmm. BDX, for instance, looks a lot like what they've been doing at some major oils in Europe. And it's up to us to try to get out there and engage people on all of them.
Right, and I know we have some work items that we haven't really even started that are coming to us from IFSF. For instance, wet stock management, and I think clearly had mentioned tank level gauge that was coming from them, and so there's some interesting work that we haven't even started yet that's coming.
Well, you mentioned that tank level gauge and price poll.
Price poll, yeah.
Which both get, kind of roll up under FTC or can, but both of those interfaces are new. POS back office had a sort of tank level gauge many years ago, but we are offering it as a new API. These two offerings from IFSF are following our new process, which I want to take just a moment for our engaged members here. Please turn on the notifications in GitLab, because we are going to be in the process of trying to get people to vote on standards and do things quickly. Wet stock management is another example of an IFSF donated standard. These are all moving through our new process, where we first look at it, make sure that we have all the right documents to start, and then we can move it over into a working group. And I think we're at the point where all of those are about ready to move.
Yeah, and Emily's got the interactive overview up on the screen so people can see how it works as you go through it on the website. It's really easy to use and intuitive, and we hope you guys will take a look at it and kind of walk through that work again. Hopefully we've answered your questions and kind of taken you through. David, clearly, and Emily, do you have any other questions that you have seen come through?
So one common question is if we have remote ordering on the roadmap. So it's a question for David and you, Donna.
So clearly, is that the same as online sales?
Yes, it's a mechanism for folks to be able to remotely place an order into a given store.
Yes, it is on the roadmap. It is one of the, if you look at Para and BDX as a sort of a totally functional delivery system for information about what's for sale and how much it costs and what the taxes are and all of that stuff. And then on the flip side, if you look at POS activity reporting as a way to report things, it can, the point of interface can be the traditional POS, can be what we call a bring your own device, just like GoSkip. It's the consumer's device, but it's scanning your products and applying your prices. We can also support relatively inexpensive third-party terminals into the mix, which may only sell some subset of products at the store. Online ordering, which you just asked about. Yes, online ordering is a very clear target for both Para and BDX. And so we think this ability to support various devices as merchants need them, and possibly even make it possible for merchants to discard devices in favor of better devices. These APIs will help make that a little bit easier and should make some things much faster.
Right, and that's the main focus of a lot of the work going on in BDX right now, is to enable remote ordering and remote sales of items. So David often refers to this as a point of sale that can't see an item. So in our current stores, we sell items that we scan, and the POS can see that item, the consumer can see that item. In a remote ordering situation, neither one can see the item, and so there has to be the ability to communicate a lot of things about an item to the remote point of sale or point of interaction, and that is everything from the item's description, its price, its size, its taxability, any sales restrictions pertinent to that item or to the consumer. And so we need to communicate a lot of information. And so the goal is to enable that process through the work that's going on in BDX right now. We're just trying to make sure that we have all the information that remote point of interaction could need to fully process the sale. That was a good question, clearly. Thank you. All right, any other questions from the audience?
I'll fill a little time here. I want to talk about kind of an adjunct topic to remote ordering, which is product availability. I did mention it earlier in the presentation, but it went by so quickly that I don't know if anybody noticed it. What we know is that people rely more and more on location systems to find products in the right blend so that they can minimize their travel time. In reality, the convenience store should win every time, right? If you want coffee, Band-Aids, flowers, and a fruit salad, you can get all of that in a convenience store. And there aren't a whole, I mean, there are some other big box stores that you can do it, but you're going to spend a lot of time walking around in them. People would prefer to go to a convenience store. But the way it works now, if you ask for coffee from your Google Maps, it's not going to probably bring your store up, even if you're standing in the parking lot. And this is another aspect of what we can see between the inventory systems of BDX and also potentially through the reporting, real-time journal. We would be able to say, do just-in-time pushes to these various search environments so that the equivalent of hot donuts now could come up. You know, it could say the croissants are hot. Stop at the convenience store that's like half a mile from you. You know, that would make a difference to me. I don't know about you guys, because
Absolutely.
you drive by it and it looks really pretty on the outside. And you may pull in because of that. But what you really want to do is go in because they have a hot croissant right now. And we have got to address that problem. And it all comes down to how we manage all this data.
Right, and the ability to communicate to different search engines that your location has croissants and that they have a car wash and flowers and, you know, a Subway QSR and a bank and all of the things that may make your location unique and beneficial to a consumer right now, so that we can compete in today's digital world.
All right, I'll take the opportunity of thanking folks for being here
Yes.
and for watching us go through this interactive display. We hope you'll all go out to the interactive display and maybe go around in it and maybe just have a little notepad, ask questions, and then send them to us. We're here. And we will almost guarantee you that anything that you send us in a question will probably result in an improvement in our interactive walkthrough capabilities.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for being here. All right, Emily, do you have anything else you need to cover before we wrap up?
No, thank you both so much for being here today and walking through all of these different projects Conexxus is working on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, David, for walking through that with us. Your input is always really, really helpful.
Well, and thank you, Donna, for being the expert retailer standards resource on my radar screen anyway.
Thanks. All
Everyone take care.
right, thanks, guys.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.